Hi, this is gonna be a very in-depth guide about how to make a meal plan. So if you're somebody that is tired of meal plans that perhaps look fancy but are not practical or effective, or you wanna make a meal plan that actually works, because there are these plans that they're just so complicated to follow, right? And you it's not gonna really help you get the results that you want. And or maybe you're somebody that has tried some meal plans before but were disappointed by the results. So whether you need a meal plan for weight loss, for fitness performance, or to handle medical conditions, we're going to try to cover those topics today. And my name is Diego. I am the co-founder of NutriAdmin, which is software for nutritionists and dietitians, and it's also used by personal trainers and wellness professionals. And we've been around since 2016, and tens of thousands of fitness and wellness professionals have tried our software since then. So I have had the privilege of working with all these people and to just gain their insights on what they need, how they make meal plans, and what are the different strategies that you can follow so that your meal plans work. And I'm joined today by Lucy. So hi, Lucy.
So, hi everyone, I'm Lucy, NutriAdmin's nutritionist and customer support. I'm a registered nutritionist dietitian. I have finished a degree in nutrition and dietetics. I have experience in different fields in nutrition and have made lots of meal plans for people with health conditions, ones who want to lose weight, as well as children. I also talk to nutrition and wellness professionals who do a lot of meal planning in NutriAdmin on a daily basis.
Nice, great. So, our goal here is that there are so many questions regarding how to make a meal plan, and some people, perhaps if you are a nutritionist yourself, or even if you're just an individual that want to make a meal plan for themselves, you may be daunted by the task because maybe it'll take you hours and hours to make a plan. There are so many ways to do it, and how do you get accurate information, and how do you make the plan manageable and easy to follow? So, for instance, if you're making a plan for clients, a common concern I've heard amongst our users is, meal plans don't work because you just make the plan, but then clients don't follow it. So, how do professional nutritionists and coaches tackle this task? And we've worked with loads of successful nutritionists and coaches that have managed to make meal plans work for them. And we're going to discuss today in depth in this definitive guide how to make a meal plan and with everything that you need to know about meal plans. Yeah. Cool. So let's just start to say, so this video, who is this guide for? So this is for mainly nutritionists, dietitians, but also personal trainers, wellness professionals, coaches, and also if you are a motivated individual that wants to make meal plans for yourself to achieve your health goals, this is also for you. And let's start just by saying, what is a meal plan? So Lucy, maybe you want to guide us. What do you consider a meal plan?
So, a meal plan, think of a meal plan as a guide for your eating habits. It's like a schedule that shows you what you'll eat, when, and how much you'll eat, based on your health and lifestyle goals. It covers like what foods to choose, how much to eat, when you will have meals or how many meals you will have on each day, and making sure that you get the right nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Meal plans can be tailored based on if you have goals for weight management or weight loss, weight gain, fitness, or to um, for example, lower your cholesterol or other health issues, or if you have allergies or intolerances, meal plans can help you avoid having those or taking those unwanted foods.
Mm-hmm.
So
I see.
yeah,
So
that's it.
yeah, not only so there's a lot to pack in, right? You can say you can have meal plans for all those different goals. I guess the
Mhm.
most common amongst the users of Nutriamin, what I'd say is the most common is losing weight. That tends to be, but then all these conditions you've mentioned are important. And it's important to say that a meal plan, well, there's no right way of making a meal plan. It all depends on your goals, on the level of effort you want to put into it, and who the plan is for. We're gonna unpack all of this in the video.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, you can, kind of touch upon for example, the level of detail, right? Because you can have a plan that is just every single meal is scheduled. Some people like that. Some people find that impractical, or you can have rough guidelines, right? So,
Yeah. So first, let's just talk about the difference between like meal plans and food diaries, because
hmm,
people sometimes get confused about that when you use like applications like Fitness Pal.
hmm,
People think about it as like meal planning, but it's actually like a food diary when you input your food intake there, and the app just like analyzes how much calories or macros you're taking. So
hmm.
it's different from a meal plan.
Yeah.
And
See,
meal
both.
plans,
Mhm. Yeah, both of them can be useful, but they're a bit different. Yeah.
yeah. Then with meal plans, you can actually do it depending on your preferences. You can do it weekly or monthly. For weekly, if for example, if you want to do a meal plan for yourself, I think weekly would be more suitable since you're gonna plan ahead. What this does is it gives you a guide that you can follow for the rest of the week. It can also help you plan the what foods you're gonna buy from the groceries or how much, stuff like that. For personal trainers and nutritionists, dietitians that I've talked to in NutriAdmin, a lot of them prefer monthly meal plans, maybe because this could help them save time. So instead of doing it every week, they could do it in bulk for the whole month.
Mm.
They could just make adjustments depending on the progress that their clients are making to the following weeks.
Yeah, and I see also the advantage of a monthly plan is really with anything to do with your diet and your habits, you're not gonna really get any meaningful results in a week. You have to be thinking long
Yeah.
term. So, like, yeah, it's fine if you follow a diet for a week, but you're not really gonna get any results unless you commit to it long term. Uh, right. So yeah, so now that we've defined what a meal plan is, let's touch upon so why is a meal plan important and what are the different goals and the different outcomes that as like as somebody follow a meal plan you are hoping to achieve.
So for every person, there are really different goals. So usually, as we've mentioned earlier, it's usually weight loss, or for people that are into fitness, like gaining muscle or fat loss. For health conditions, maybe like lowering your blood pressure, your cholesterol, or managing your diabetes, something like that. So it's really helpful to plan your meals so that you would not have like impulse purchases. If you don't plan your meals well, the tendency is that if you don't have time to prepare for your foods, you could just rely on fast foods that are mostly a lot of there are mostly a lot of preservatives and other stuff that are not really ideal. It's okay sometimes, but with meal planning you can avoid that since you plan ahead and you're
Yeah.
ready for each meal that you want to eat.
Yeah, there's
And
like there's no worse decision making than the decision making you make when you're hungry and in a rush. That's precisely
yes,
when
totally.
and if you plan ahead, you can minimize a bit. Even if you're not always successful, it can be hard to follow exactly a plan every single day. But if most of the time you're sticking to it and over time you're getting better, you will have more willpower, you will build healthier habits, and you're gonna be improvising less because whenever you improvise, there are all these fast food and not necessarily healthy food options that are very heavily marketing to consumers. And all these big companies know that when you're hungry, you're in a rush, you haven't planned, you haven't brought your food, you just you're gonna stick with whatever is convenient. So you wanna probably avoid that. And a meal plan can help you a lot in this regard.
Yeah, for restaurants or fast foods, the nutrition part is not really their priority. It's more of about the taste. So
Hmm.
you could just have um a lot more sodium or fat, which makes meals a lot more tastier. So Yeah.
Yeah.
If you plan your meals, you know what's going into what you're eating and what you're taking into your body,
Hmm. Can you
rather
share
than
some? Yeah. No, of course. Can you share some success stories of, because you have provided meal plans for different types of clients as a nutritionist. So, what kind of results have you seen? And you can share some examples.
yes, I've done a lot of meal plans for different people. For adults, I have this client that wants to lose weight. So it's really, at first he's not really that into meal plans because they have no time, or they're too busy to make their own meals. So we talked it through how should they tackle that problem. So I offered different solutions for that. Maybe like have easier meals, or
Mm,
if they cook their meals for their family, they could add other nutritious, or add more fiber to their diet. For example, adding vegetables on their meals if they don't usually have it,
mhm,
stuff like that. Just minor changes that we could later on make into a much more or
mm.
maybe stricter or more compliant meal plans, or
I see.
exact meal plans. Yeah.
So you
For
can
kids,
introduce those gradual changes, and then what kind of result did you see with that particular client over time?
yeah, he really liked it because at first we he did it's not really that strict. Some people have a hard time in adjusting,
Mm,
especially when they come from a lifestyle that's not really ideal.
yeah.
Adjustment is yeah, really hard. So gradual changes would really help. And yeah, at first we did that, then we made it to a more comprehensive meal plan that he would strictly follow, that
Hmm.
is also based on his like lifestyle, availability of resources in his area,
Hmm.
and yeah, the time that he has, and a lot of other factors that it's convenient for him.
I see. And did the client manage to lose weight in the end and achieve their goals?
Yeah, yeah, it's really amazing how it worked. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rewarding when this happens. And I've been in contact with tens of thousands of nutritionists and trainers since 2016, thanks to NutriAdmin, and I've heard countless times the stories of um, just clients that, through changing their habits with the help of a meal plan and coaching, they can lose their weight, they can reverse problems associated with diabetes. This stuff can be truly life changing. I mean, me personally, when I joined university, I got really unhealthy. I started to eat very badly, and I've actually gained 35 kilos, which is a lot. I got to a point where I was having pain in my chest, and I was thinking, if I keep this lifestyle, I'm gonna die young. This has to stop. And with the help of a nutritionist and learning about nutrition, following plans, keeping a food diary, I managed to lose all these weights. And within a year of being really serious about it, I lost the 35 kilos, and then I was fit enough to row in my team at university and to do sports. And I've got the weight off for the last 10 years. So for me personally, it's been life changing. And this has been also a key motivation of why I wanted to start NutriAdmin those years ago. And this stuff, I know it can work. It's not necessarily for everyone. And you need to adapt to the goals of each client, and you to make it individualized. But uh, there are countless stories of people who have improved their nutrition and achieved health outcomes, and they never look back. So that's why it's important to make meal plans well, to make them effective, and we want to share everything we know to help you make better meal plans. So this leads me into just asking, so what are some tips on how to make a meal plan effective? Because as we mentioned earlier, if you have a plan that, let's say, basically, if you're a nutritionist and you provide a plan for a client, and then the client doesn't follow the plan, then that plan hasn't really worked, right?
Yeah, exactly. First, the most important thing is to set a clear goal, not just like a goal that I want to lose weight. just a vague goal. It has to follow the SMART goals. So you have to be precise. You have to have a time frame on when you'll achieve that goal. It has to be realistic. So for example, for this week, on this meal plan, I'm planning to eat more vegetables. So that's a small start. So, but it's achievable, right? And you'll say that it's for a week, for this week. And
Mhm.
so you have a timeline that you want to achieve, something like that.
What if
So,
I am a lunatic that wants to change overnight everything and cut my calories by half? And what's gonna happen if I do that?
oh, that would be bad because if you cut your calories into half, you're gonna be hungry all the time, and that won't work. You'll last a day, but maybe for the week, not really.
Yeah.
So
I
gradual
mean,
changes is really important.
mhm. I guess that that's always the odd individual that breaks all the rule, but I would imagine that for most people, gradually changing your habits makes more sense.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's good, yeah. And like, what can you say about? Well, I mean, I'll say, having worked with all these nutritionists, I say certainly if you're an individual that just wants to improve their health, you can try to make your own meal plans, and if you spend time and you read about it and you educate yourself over time, you'll get better. But it can be invaluable to just get the help from a professional, because there are like in NutriAdmin, some of our clients, they are making 50 meal plans every week because they have many customers. Like, we have some coaches that work at a gym, and every week they're making plans, so they are really good at it. They've been doing this for a long time, and they know all the practical steps, what works. And if you've tried a meal plan before and you didn't put much effort into it, or you just made it yourself, or if you have been trying as a nutrition professional to provide plans for clients but you haven't really been getting the results, there are many things you can do to, I mean, the experience of a professional, you're going to get better at it with more experience. And there's another thing I wanted to touch upon, which is, I think that a critical thing about a meal plan as well is that it has to be individualized, just tailored to the person that is going to follow the plan. You touch upon, because some people will just download some plan from the internet, right? And I mean, that's not really ideal. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So for us, every person has different needs, and we have different lifestyles, as I mentioned earlier. We have different health conditions. We have different builds. We have different weights. You and me, we have different genders. So it has to be different for everyone. You can't just get a random meal plan online, because that might be made for someone that's not the same as you. For example, if you're diabetic and you're following a meal plan that's really high in simple carbohydrates, that won't be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to have it individualized, especially if you have health conditions. It's best to consult a professional for it, so that
Yeah.
you'll have tailored meal plans, and also you'll be guided with right advice when it comes to your health,
Yeah, it
and
makes sense
also to
because
make your goals to
mm,
achieve your goals efficiently.
yeah, it makes sense because the food can be both your medicine or your poison. So better to choose it carefully and strategically. Uh, yeah, and obviously, yeah, you also need to bear in mind the return on investment. So let's say if it takes you too long to make a meal plan, if it's gonna take you 3 or 4 hours to make a plan for a week, then perhaps it's not worth the effort. But if you have an effective way of making plans quickly, if you can reuse them from week to week, and if you can have perhaps software or different tools or different ways of just recycling the content and just making it fast, that's gonna make it quick, because nobody has a spare 4 hours to make a plan every week. Like, that's just and that's
Exactly.
that's something I've heard from professional nutritionists using NutriAdmin. So I've asked about this. We really want to learn from our users on how to make the software better, and I've asked how long does it take you to make a meal plan, and the answers vary. So when somebody has been doing this for a while and they have the right tools and they're efficient, they can do them very quickly, like sometimes in 10 or 15 minutes. But if somebody, even a nutritionist, maybe you started a degree in nutrition, you're working with your first clients, but you haven't really made many meal plans yet. Um, maybe you want to be very perfectionistic and you don't have the right tools and you can spend the whole day making one. So, we want to help you do it much faster than that, because otherwise it's not really going to be effective.
Yeah, I can absolutely tell you that's true because before when I was starting, it took me a lot of time to do meal plans. If you have a lot of clients, that would take so much more time, and it's nice to have a tool that would make stuff easier for you to make meal
Yeah.
plans because that's really time consuming. It
Yeah.
takes us hours sometimes.
Of course. And and clients often don't see that. Like that's another concern I hear from our users, that let's say you work in a gym and you're training a client and they're doing a good workout, they're making progress, but then they're going home and they're eating really badly and they're kind of undoing their progress. It's quite frustrating when that happens. And then they come to you and they're like, can you just make me a meal plan? And well, if you are able to do it quickly, then maybe you can say yes. But if it's going to take you 4 hours, and then on top of that, the client is not even going to follow the plan, that's extremely frustrating. And they're not going to expect to perhaps pay you for that time. Like maybe they don't see the value or they don't realize how much time it can take. So, yeah, we want to find ways of making the plan. There's basically two goals. One is to make them quickly so that it doesn't cost you much of your effort. And number two is to make them effective. So you're making a plan that the client follows and that it helps the client achieve their goals. And when I say client, this could be yourself if you're making a plan for yourself. So let's now touch on, we just covered what is a meal plan, why they're important, the potential, what you could get, how success stories, how when plans work, they can change someone's life, that's the dream. So now let's just delve deep into how do we make the plan easy to follow? Because that's going to be the main thing that's going to make it effective.
Yeah. Um, to make a plan easy to follow, like we mentioned before, it has to be individualized. You have to be crystal clear about who the plan is for. You have to avoid some things. Maybe one is having too complicated recipes. So not everyone has the time to make an elaborate recipe every day. That would be
Mm-hmm.
too unrealistic. Second is expensive ingredients. So every country or every place has different um foods that are available to them. So it would be better if you think of the foods that are seasonal or available to your specific client. And to um to make it easier, it has to be practical recipes or meal plans. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to like yeah, like earlier complicated recipes and provide clients with unfamiliar foods. That won't work because if the food is unfamiliar to them, most likely they won't eat that
Yeah,
unless they're what
like
do you
very
call that?
adventurous.
Yeah, true,
Yeah,
that
because
one.
like
Yeah.
it kind of comes back to you need to really understand who the plan is for a client. You can even you can use a questionnaire. You can have a default questionnaire that asks a key questions like what foods do you like, what do you normally eat, or what are
Yeah.
your allergies. Although even better than a questionnaire is probably to ask a client or to just to get a food diary for a week to see what they really eat, because uh essentially, if you ask people to just kind of tell you what they eat, studies have shown that people are really bad at recalling this. It's going to be really inaccurate. There's this study that it always makes me kind of laugh, but also cry, where they tracked people's caloric intakes and people just reported about 30% less calories than they really ate. And when the researchers examined the rubbish of people and they saw all the packaging, they could measure exactly how much they were eating. It's just we're awful at just measuring and recalling us. So you wanna, if you get a food diary for a few days, that's a common practice I think amongst nutritionists, right? You get a
Yeah.
food diary, and once you understand the client, you have a consultation with them, an interview, then you're better prepared to think who this person is and what are with your experience, what are the best recommendations you can give them in a plan.
So
Mm-hmm.
the recipes in the plan has to be delicious, not just
Mm-hmm.
like healthy. So bland or tasteless or repetitive meals are a no-no because usually clients get um get tired of repetitive meals, or if it's not tasty, they won't likely to eat that much, or they won't really cook it or make time for
Hmm.
it. So it won't really be practical.
Yeah.
And for example, a client is part of, or they live with their family, so most likely they're gonna eat what their family is gonna eat. So the recipes has to be either for everyone, or or you could adjust to what they usually eat within their
Mm.
family.
Yeah, that's important because there's like so many times a plan is theory, but then when people in the real life they eat with their partners, or what about if they go to work out in an office and they have to eat out in a restaurant, or what about if one day they don't have time, or what if they do their shopping online and some of the ingredients were not delivered? Like, do you have some sort of substitute or some sort of emergency? Do you have some sort of emergency snack? Like if nothing is available, I'm hungry now, what do I now? Like, you need to take all of these into consideration. Those are going to be the sort of um, like essentially you have to plan uh, for the failure points, because it's easy to follow rules and to follow a plan during perfect conditions, like when you have time, you slept well, you have enough money for the ingredients, and you have all the cooking equipment. But then, yeah, what happens in those um, sort of unforeseen circumstances, like when now turns out you get a call tomorrow, you have to go to a different location and you don't have food, or what happens when you have to improvise? Basically, you want to plan for all of that.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Mhm.
for example, especially now that we're on holiday season, you
Oh
have
yeah.
to eat from a lot of parties, maybe Christmas parties, with your family. You can't just like maybe bring your own food. That would be not good. It's like a bit
Unusual.
offensive because the person who cooked might think that maybe my cooking is not that good.
Yeah,
Someone brought their own food, something like that. So you have to adjust on your on the situation that you're in. So maybe
yeah.
you could look into the portion sizes of each food that you take you eat from that certain place that you're going to, or even
Hmm.
in the restaurants.
Makes sense, yeah. And cool. So, once you have a plan that has step-by-step recipes that are practical and easy to cook, and I think it's also important to include a shopping list for a meal plan, because that's going to be the first question. Like, if you cannot cook the recipes unless you have the ingredients. So, if you have a handy shopping list that tells you exactly the amounts that you want to cook, like you also don't want to be wasteful, because if you are not used to cooking that often, then or a client is not used to, you don't want to buy, like you don't want half of the ingredients to go to waste, and that's going to be quite discouraging. So a shopping list can help. And then, there are practical considerations as well with in real life. An effective meal plan probably should have quite often meal prep options and leftover options. So a lot of the time, if you're going to put the effort into cooking a meal, a lot of people would rather cook a big portion and then split it maybe into 2 or 3 meals. And this way you only cook once, but you have 3 meals. And so you can have a plan that, let's say, has dinner. I mean, I personally do this. For dinner, I get home from work and I spend half an hour cooking a dish. And then I'll eat a portion straight away with my partner. And then the following day, I will um, we eat the other one. And this is, I find, is a practical way of eating healthily. So um, yeah, that's kind of some of these tips are common sense, but when you sit down and you make a meal plan, or you use some software to do that, or you're picking some recipes, you have to make sure that you're meeting all of these criteria if you want the plan to be effective. Because sometimes you pull a recipe from the internet and really it has 3 ingredients that are not even available for your client, or it just takes an hour in the oven. Like, what if this person doesn't even have an oven, or what if it uses 4 different pots and 3 types of blender? Like, that's just not going to work for most people. So uh yeah, right. So I like to, so since Lucy, you're a registered nutritionist dietitian, and you have studied nutrition in university, so I'm curious about what they teach you in school, because not everybody, I mean, yeah, not everybody listening will have studied nutrition. So what are the key considerations that they emphasize in your studies when you're preparing a meal plan?
So in school, we're taught to, maybe it's different for each country, but in my country we use food exchange lists to roughly estimate how much portions a client needs based on their calories, macros, and other considerations. For example, if they have health conditions or and factors like that. I also asked a colleague from the UK. When they plan meals, they for clients they use calorie counting, or they
Hmm.
use substitutions of ingredients. If,
Hmm.
for example, they're trying to lose weight, you substitute the like un not really ideal ingredients to a more ideal or healthier options,
Hmm.
stuff like that. Then you can also use food databases to know how much calories or macros and micronutrients you're consuming. For example, USDA food databases. We have the UK has that also. Canada, maybe on your own country, you also have that certain food
Yeah, and
database.
just to be clear, these databases are often free and provided by the governments of each country. So,
Yeah.
for example, the USDA is probably the biggest, and it's provided by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And you can go online and query and find very long, detailed lists. The data is very accurate. It all comes from peer-reviewed studies, and the majority, if you've ever used any software online that contains nutrition data, the majority of them will use this as the source, because software companies are able to license and use this data. So yeah, what you want to avoid probably is sometimes, for example, if you use MyFitnessPal, it's quite practical as a food diary, but a lot of the nutritional data is entered by users, so a lot of it can be inaccurate. So or if you have specific brands. So let's say you buy a sandwich in some sort of shop, and often, depending on your country, maybe they'll tell you the calories, maybe they'll tell you the macros, but more often than not, it will not go further than that. So you may not get accurate micronutrient information for. So that's when you have to take that into consideration.
So also, just an addition, Diego, it's important to know how to read nutrition facts,
Mm,
because if you buy a certain product and it has a nutrition facts in the back, sometimes you'll just see the calories in there. You don't look at how much servings are
oh
in
yeah.
that certain food item. So you're gonna see like, oh, this is 100 calories, but if you look at the serving size, it has like 4 or 5 servings. That
Yeah.
would be, if you finish that one, it's not gonna be 100 calories. So it's important to know how many servings are there in a certain product. So
Yeah,
nutrition
yeah.
facts is really important.
I always wonder who are the people that buy a pack of like a chocolate bar that has 3 servings and actually divide it into 3 bites. I mean, it's just a way the food companies are basically cheating. They're, who buys a bag of crisps that has 5 servings and eats it on five? I mean, not me. So,
Yeah.
um, cool. What can you tell me about diet? So, micronutrients, there are different levels that you need to achieve health, and you can have deficiencies, or you can have excess of some nutrients as well, right? So, I think they're called DRIs in America or in the UK. That depends on the country, right?
Mhm. Yeah, for that, it's not really very necessary unless you have certain deficiencies that are
Hmm.
known to you. The rule of thumb is you just have to eat more colors, or what we usually say, eat the rainbow. The more
Hmm. Hmm.
colorful your plate is, um the better it is, because you'll have a variety of nutrients. But if you're following certain diets like vegan diet, which is known to have like lesser or lower vitamin B12 that are usually found on animal products, you
Hmm.
should consult with your health professional on how to avoid those deficiency, maybe get supplements or
Mhm.
know certain um food items that are rich in vitamin B12.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like what you said because so we want to, as we said earlier, the focus is to make a plan that is effective, that drives results, but also to make it as fast as possible. So, for instance, what you said is a excellent time-saving opportunity because depending on your client, for some clients, if you know they're healthy and they're gonna get enough micronutrients roughly, you don't even have to bother maybe calculating them, or unless you have a very quick way of doing it. Whilst if you have a client that has a critical deficiency, you want to really emphasize on that, and it all depends on how much time you have available. Ideally, for every plan, you would just make it perfect, but uh, you have to keep the goal in mind. If the goal is just to make a gradual improvement, and then maybe a month from now we'll refine it further, perhaps you can start with a more rough guidelines plan that focuses on the big, like if you want to change people's habits, some people will have some one or two big horrendous habits, and then they have a couple of things that are not ideal but are okay, and then there are some things that they're doing mostly fine. So you want to probably start addressing the big red flags, and once those are sorted, once you got a client to replace basically eating ultra processed food every day for breakfast and now they're eating a healthy breakfast, after you've done that, you can maybe focus on choosing the perfect vegetable when they're eating three vegetables and mostly, and you convince them to switch it to five to have more variety. Or yeah.
Yes,
uh
gradual changes.
cool. We're gonna take a little break. We'll be back in a moment. Yeah. All right, we're back from our break, and let's pick up where we left off. So we're discussing how a nutritionist makes meal plans, and I wonder if you could, because you have experience, Lucy, providing plans for weight loss or for people with hypertension, diabetes, to children, cholesterol. So what are some of can you give an example of considerations that are specific when you have one of these groups?
Mhm. So for health conditions like hypertension or diabetes, you follow certain guidelines. Like for example, for hypertension, we usually um advise low salt, low fat diet. So basically there's no
Mm.
salt usually. So to counter that, we use herbs and spices to make their meals tasty. For
Mhm.
diabetes, usually it's like low or no sugar or
Mhm.
simple
Mhm.
sugars. Then for children, yeah, I mentioned it earlier. No, I didn't mention it earlier. For children, you have to like make sure that they would eat those, and depending really on the age of the child, if it's like a year, 1 year old, or a little bit older, like 2 or 3 years old, they have to eat on like tiny pieces of food. So you
So
have to adjust on that if you have to cut up some vegetables based on how much they can tolerate.
yeah, and they can be picky eaters as well, right? So it's
Yeah,
all like if
totally.
you tell any parent, you give them the perfect diet for their child, and day one, meal one, they just want eat the broccoli. They just want eat. They don't want the airplane. Yeah, that's like in real life practical consideration. So what if maybe what if you make a plan for somebody that is elderly and cannot chew hard foods, or somebody that is recovering from some surgery? Those things you have to factor. That's why it goes back to really understanding who the plan is for, and having a conversation with them and using feedback so that you adjust the plan and make sure that they succeed.
Yeah,
So
totally.
there's a lot we can talk about. Let's delve deep on this topic of understanding the target person for the meal plan. So this first of all is the plan for yourself, or are you a nutritionist or coach that is making a plan for someone else, right? And if you're making a plan for someone else, it's useful to have a questionnaire, as we mentioned earlier. So, like that's, for example, in NutriAdmin, we provide software for nutritionists, and one of the key features that from day one our users have requested is the ability to make questionnaires, because they're useful for this purpose and other purposes. But if you don't want to use a specialized software, you can also use Google Forms, or you can just print out a Word document. Um, So all of those are options for different use cases. And what kind of questions would you include in this questionnaire, Lucy? So if I ask you for a meal plan, what would you like to ask me in a questionnaire, for example?
Aside from the basics like age, gender, maybe food intolerances or
Mm,
allergies there are if they have it, because it's crucial to know that, because it may harm the certain client
yeah.
for that if they have health conditions, what their goals are, if they want to lose weight or
Hmm.
they want to gain, or they want to reduce certain blood chemistries like cholesterol, sugar, they want to manage those.
Hmm.
um if they have a goal weight, if for weight loss, something like that, what foods do they want, or what food, their favorite foods, or what foods they don't really eat or they don't really like. Because if you make a meal plan and you include foods that are not really acceptable to the client, that won't be that would be a waste.
Right. There's so many questions really you can go through. Like,
Yeah.
what is their religion? Certain religions don't eat certain types of foods. What is their budget? Like, can they spend a lot of money, or you have to keep it cheap? Or how much time are they willing to spend cooking? Are they gonna cook at home, or are they gonna eat out? What are their habits? What is the availability of local ingredients? What's the cooking equipment they have available at home?
Yeah,
Uh,
if you provide a recipe that requires an oven but they don't have it, like we mentioned
yeah,
earlier, yeah, it would be it would be hard to follow, or they won't
exactly.
really follow that. Yeah.
What is there, or what about some people? Well, what if they are, if they want to follow a ketogenic diet or a vegan diet? There are just those diets exclude certain food groups. So obviously you have to consider that into the plan. Uh, and what
Yeah.
about, I mean, and as it goes back to it all depends on the level of detail that you want to have. So if you just want to make a quick plan because you want to give someone rough guidelines, perhaps having just a 5 to 10 minute chat with them is enough, and you just make the plan. But then if you're getting a new client you've never met before, it can be helpful to have a standardized questionnaire with as many of the fields we've mentioned, everything basically that we've mentioned about the client so far. You can include, or you can come up with your own questions, and some of them you can remove if you don't think if you think it's too much detail. And then, yeah, I think what most of our the people that we work with in NutriAdmin do is they have a intake questionnaire with all of these questions, also medical conditions and like anything that you think is relevant. And secondly, the food diary. So a food diary doesn't have to be complicated. There are sort of two schools of thought that we think with the software. So sometimes the easiest is if you just give people a table. And it's a table of day one, day two, day three, day four, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and they just write down on paper, or they type into some sort of software application. Like we provide this in NutriAdmin, but you can also do it with a Google form, as mentioned earlier. And you can have a form where they just note down breakfast. I ate 2 eggs and two slices of bacon. Lunch, I ate this and that. So that would be the easiest for the client because they just write down what they've eaten, and anybody should be able to do that. But then another option is you provide them with an automatic food diary. So this is, for example, what an app like MyFitnessPal does for free, and there are other options. We're hoping to introduce this feature as well in the NutriAdmin at some point. And what this would do is the client can select from a database the foods, and they get the nutritional analysis in there. So if this is harder for the client because they have to enter the data, and they have to also be knowledgeable enough to pick the right items and portion sizes. If they make mistakes, if they don't know enough about nutrition, the data may be inaccurate. But if you are a nutritionist that has many clients and you want to work this way so that it saves you the time, you can provide them with an automatic food diary so that they enter what they eat, and you get the analysis. And that's going to be very informative. It's going to tell you, are they eating enough fiber? Is there too much salt in their diet, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So yeah, that would help. That's actually called dietary analysis. So
mhm.
when you get um a food diary from a client initially, before you even make the meal plan, can get what they usually eat, then you can assess if they're eating enough, or if there are certain um, micronutrients that are not really met, requirements that are not really meant on
Hmm.
their intake. For example, you do that for a week, food diary for a week, so that would help you know what um, stuff the client needs in terms of
Hmm.
the food, which ones they have to improve on.
Yeah, I think in my experience working with nutritionists, I'd say there are two ways. So the two most common ways in which this process will fail is, so you want to request a food diary from someone. So the number one thing is you probably need to make it easy for them to do, because if they're gonna have to systematically keep track of everything they've eaten perhaps for a week. Like if you think it's too much, you can make it just 3 days. Some of our users do that. But so you need to make it easy for them so that they don't forget, and so that they add, and you need to emphasize that everything counts. So if they're eating a little piece of chocolate as a snack, that also counts. You cannot just skip. And then the second thing is, there's a human component to this. So you want to be empathetic, and you want to just explain to the client that you are collecting this data not to judge them, because some people feel guilty about what they eat, or some people just don't wanna, they feel embarrassed, or they may not write accurately what they've eaten for different reasons, and that is just a reality. And you have to explain that the more accurate the data is, the better you will be able to help. And at the end of the day, people may lie about what they eat, subconsciously sometimes, because they are, if they are, for example, eating mindlessly whilst watching TV or thinking, like sometimes their brain doesn't even realize I've eaten, I thought I ate a little bit and I ate the whole pack. So you want to talk to them so that you get all these accurate data. And I mean, have you tried food diaries with clients before, Lucy? And what were your
Yeah,
impressions?
we actually in the Philippines we use 24-hour food recall, so it's
Mm,
easier for the clients to remember because it's like a short period of time. If you do like more than that, most likely if they don't do it every day,
mm,
they will forget what they eat, or it may be a little inaccurate because
mm.
yeah, we don't even sometimes we even forget the simplest things, so even
Yeah,
me. It's important to like have a short period of time, or if you do it like what you said, 3 days, you have to inform the client that you have to do this on three
yeah.
consecutive days, or yeah.
And include everything like drinks, for example, like if you have some sugar or some with your coffee, that counts. Or if you have some
Yes.
snacks, if you have
Mhm.
some I don't know, you go to a restaurant and you made a note of the meal, but they also gave you some little free snack or whatever that you were not expecting, that it
Yeah.
all counts.
Yeah, client education is also important. So you have to let them know about, or if you're planning your own meal plan, you have to know about portion sizes, or how
Hmm,
much um, is something, how many servings are you getting,
true.
especially from when you're eating out. Um, they're serving usually bigger than your usual portion sizes, so it's important to know these things.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I know what you mean, because we're recording this now, and there's gonna be an article associated with this video, and we will include a handout with useful heuristics for portion sizes. Because yeah, like if you get a food diary from a client and they've eaten in a restaurant and they report they've eaten 100 grams of something, but realistically it was maybe twice that amount. It's very hard. Nobody brings a scale to the restaurant to measure every little
yeah,
gram. So
exactly.
you need to have those guidelines so that you can estimate more or less. Um,
Yeah, like visual cues.
mm, so yeah, so I know, yeah, we'll share those in the article. Right. So once you've done some dietary analysis, this sort of would be before making a meal plan. Ideally, you have all this information. You've
Mhm.
interviewed your client, you've collected all this data, and now you're making a plan. So a meal plan has several components. I think is there is the meals that you're gonna eat, the times at which you're gonna eat them, but then there's the nutritional or dietary analysis, right? So what kind of, let's say, imagine we're making a meal plan for a week, for me, for example. So what dietary analysis would you do in this plan and why?
Um, dietary analysis for that. You have to select the right tool for it. If it's like how long are you gonna have this meal plan or your goals? How long would you have to achieve that goal? For example,
Mm,
for you, it's just 1 week. For this week, what are
mhm.
your goals?
Yeah.
Do you
So
want
let's say
to eat?
let's say you can use some formulas to determine people's BMR and their weight maintenance. So
Yeah,
let's say, I think for me, more or less, maybe on with my activity level and stuff, I may burn around 2,500 calories a day, which is kind of typical for a male my age. So uh, then let's say I want to lose weight, we determine we need a caloric deficit. So I'm gonna aim for you have to calculate what the appropriate caloric deficit would be, right? Like what would you say for me
yes.
could be adequate?
Um, I can't really like explain it to you like
It's a
right now
trick
in
question.
detail. Yes, it's really hard to do this in like a couple of minutes. It would
Mm,
really take time. I have to know a lot, like we discussed earlier. So
mm.
it would take so much time.
Yeah, no, we
So
can link to it in the article. There are formulas
yeah,
you can use and different questions because obviously, yeah, if you choose a caloric target that is too low, it's gonna lead to failure because probably the person will be too hungry or to have some side effects. And if the caloric deficit is not big enough, the results won't come. So, essentially, when you plan, those are all these considerations you have to have in mind, and you want to choose determine the right level of macronutrients and calories to start with right?
yeah,
With um,
like caloric requirements, the macros, if it's
mm,
enough. Usually nutrition or wellness professional would know that. So it's important to consult with them, especially if
mm,
you have different health conditions or
mm-hmm,
if you're really if you want to make sure that the plan would work. It's really nice to get advice from an
yeah.
expert.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I
but
lost, sorry, yeah, just as an example, when I lost all this weight years ago, I had the help for a nutritionist, and she calculated a suitable level of calories for me, and she made sure there was enough fiber and protein in my meals, so for satiety, because this way you're not going to be hungry even though you have fewer calories, and all those considerations are crucial, I think, as well as choosing you're ensuring that the plant has enough micronutrients to meet the daily requirements, right? Because
yes. Mhm. So for if it's for an individual, it would
mhm,
be okay if you would use like free tools. You have to do it. You can do it on your own.
mhm,
Like it's really depending on what's available or what works for you. Like you can use Excel or Google Docs to make
mhm,
that plan. But if
mhm,
you're a nutritionist, dietitian, personal trainer, or wellness professional that wants to make meal plans, it would be better if you have if you use a specialized software to help you out with this task because as we mentioned earlier, it's really a time consuming task making meal plans. So like
yeah.
NutriAdmin, we can make meal plans in less than a minute, in a few
Yeah.
seconds really. But
Yeah, we'll touch upon that later. But yeah, obviously we're biased because we're NutriAdmin, but just for the interest of transparency, there are other competitors to our software, and I think that we provide a free trial for our users. I think most competitors do the same. So just to give you a full honest list of all the tools you can use. So you have, if you are in the United States, you can use USDA to calculate nutrients online for free. There is the AUSNAT database in Australia. UK Mackenzie and Widowson's database of nutrients. There is Canadian Nutrient File in Canada. There are different regional databases depending on the country. Then if you want to find recipes, there are free tools online like Spoonacular. If you want to keep track of food diary, there is MyFitnessPal, there is FNRI, and you can do a quick Google search to find some. And then there's obviously, yeah, for nutrition professionals, there is a specialized software like our own, NutriAdmin, and we have other competitors. You can look online, and I always tell people that if you work in nutrition, really, a tool like us, like NutriAdmin, we're only really gonna make money long term if we keep customers happy for a long period of time. So it doesn't really make sense to it just, I think, makes sense for people. I recommend they try all the different options with those free trials, and then they pick whatever works best for them, because they're all different. They have pros and cons. And long term, you're probably going to benefit if you find something that suits your needs, right? And yeah, and okay, so now let's delve into. We've explained the who this is for, why plants are important, all the different principles that you have to take into consideration. So now let's talk about how to make a plan step by step, practically. And I want to highlight. We're going to provide you 4 different options, because depending on your situation, depending on whether you just want to make one plan for yourself once, or whether you want to make 10 plans every day because you have a lot of clients. It all starts with choosing the right tool, right? And the easiest is just a piece of paper and a pen. And that's going to be okay if you just want to make some rough guidelines as a one-off. And then you have the basic tools like Lucy said earlier, Google Docs, Excel, spreadsheets. You have all these databases for free that we've mentioned online. So there are basically the options we're going to discuss is option 1, making a meal plan for free. This will be good if you just need to do this as a one-off. You don't need to complicate or install specialized software. Then option 2 would be the fastest if you just want to make some generic guidelines with rules of thumb. So rather than specifying prescriptively every meal one by one, you just want to make some guidelines. Option number 3 is using NutriAdmin. You can generate a meal plan that is very tailored and individualized in 60 seconds. And we have a tool that basically you enter all the parameters and you get out a meal plan. And option 4 is using NutriAdmin. You can also create a plan from scratch where you pick every single meal. And again, in the interest of transparency, NutriAdmin is not the only software that does this. There are other competitors, and you're welcome to try if some of them and see which one works best for you. So let's start with option 1, how to make a meal plan for free. So Lucy, if you just wanted to make a plan today just for yourself for free, how would you go about that?
Yeah, at first, if you're just starting out, if you wanting to make a meal plan, a pen and a paper will do. You write your write foods that are convenient for you, or recipes, or yeah, recipes that are convenient, or what you usually eat. Then if you think it's not really complete, like it lacks protein, or it doesn't have vegetables, you can add like a little bit of that in the meals that you're planning. You can use, like what we said earlier, Excel, Google Docs, spreadsheets. So make a rough list of meals based on what we discussed earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, those factors. You can use free databases to query or know the nutrients within that certain food. Like
Mm-hmm.
Diego mentioned, every country or different places have different food databases that you can
Mm-hmm.
query on. You can also use apps like MyFitnessPal, but as mentioned earlier, it may not be that accurate. But if you're not really that strict on what you're eating, it could be a nice start.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can also adjust portion sizes or move meals around. Like, for example, if you make a plan like what we mentioned earlier, that you're making a big batch, you can separate the leftovers and have it for later, stuff like
Hmm.
that. Make sure that the micronutrients are enough. If again, if you're not really deficient, you can just simple rule of thumb is eat the rainbow, like eat
Hmm.
different types of foods or fruits and vegetables or plant-based or plant foods.
Yeah, I
um
guess you can also consider supplements in some cases if you think that's
yes,
adequate.
yes, true. um You can also search for recipes online based on your requirements. If you're following a vegan diet, there's a lot of available resources now online that you can like experiment on. Like it's not just the usual just eat the tofu and stuff like that. A lot of people are following a vegan diet right now, so there are a lot of options online. But
Yeah.
the problem is it's not they don't really disclose the calories or the macros and micronutrients content of that. So you
Well, I
have
mean, it
to,
depends on the website, right? Like some of them
yeah.
will. So I'd say that if you want to find recipes online, um, there are websites that will be more anecdotal. Like this is the nice recipe I like, and maybe it's not going to be so accurate. But you got, for example, in we are going to publish some recipes with nutritional analysis in NutriAdmin for free that anybody can use. There are other places like Spoonacular or you can just have a recipe book as well from some chef or author that you respect, and they can give you some nice ideas. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, but if you're gonna get recipes from Instagram, for example, I usually do that. So yeah, they won't really give you the calories and
yeah.
macros. So that would
Yeah.
be the tools like what we mentioned earlier, the USDA food databases and others would really
Mhm.
help with that.
Yeah. And
Um,
I'd say, if you're somebody that, if you've been planning for a while, probably you will gain an intuitive understanding of approximately how many nutrients there are in different food combinations. So maybe over time, if you don't have to be very strict, you can just roughly assess and let's say, okay, most of my meals are going to be 1/3 protein, 1/3 vegetables, 1/3 carbs with fiber. And if I want to lose weight, I'll replace the carbs with legumes or something like that. Like depending on, obviously it's not for me to say, it depends on the individual, and if you are a nutritionist advising clients, you will have your own rules of thumb, and there are some I guess, like you probably learned some of them in school, right, Lucy? Like they told you, uh you mentioned the other day, we were talking about these 30 different vegetables for gut health.
yeah, right now a lot of people are giving more importance on gut health.
Hmm.
So there's this study that if you eat 30 types of plant foods per week or more, it would
Hmm.
be good for your gut, or you have more, like you will have more healthier gut health.
Yeah,
So mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in UK you have like the 5 a day, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I am in the UK. I'm recording from London, and the government, the NHS, National Health Service, they published this guideline, which is simple for people to follow. It's just 5 different types of vegetables and fruits a day, and it's it's an effort to make sure people eat more fiber, they get more vitamins, and you get variety. Probably most people would benefit from this, but obviously individual circumstances are different for each individual. Right. So, so far, to make a meal plan for free, you use any sort of document, and you get the nutrients from these different resources. If you check the article associated with this video, you will have links to everything. Most of it is for free. And then you find recipes. There are many different ways. You can use your own as well. And once you're satisfied with the whole plan, I'd say it's important to compile a shopping list. So maybe if you're using Excel, maybe that's easy. If you organize it by columns, you can add together all of the ingredients. And if you're going to reuse the plan many times, I would suggest you set up some sort of template. Maybe you can download one from the internet, And but yeah, actually, maybe we can provide a template from Excel in this article, and you can sort of add up together all the ingredients and get a shopping list. And this way, either you or the client can just print it out or check it in their phone as they shop. Can be easy if you shop online and you make sure you get all the ingredients in the right portions. Then, if this is a document you're intending to sell or give to a client, it can be good if you format it so that it looks professional and attractive. So you can download some template from the internet, or you can create your own, or all of this is for free. Obviously, if you use software that is specialized for meal plans, this will be taken care of. And I'll also say one thing that is being mentioned amongst our users at NutriAdmin is that it's crucial to keep a one-page summary of the whole plan. So that is very, while this meal plan can be 50 pages with all the analysis, or it can be just down to one. It all depends how in-depth you want to go. If you keep a single page sort of with the overview for the week, that's somebody that people can print out and stick in their fridge, and they know every day what they're meant to eat. So that's going to be very helpful, I think.
Yeah, it will be some sort of a reminder for them that, oh, this is the meal that I'm gonna have for today. Or if they're
Yeah.
working, the snacks that they would bring it to work, they would be reminded of that if they have a list.
Makes sense. And I'd say also, probably once you finish the plan, you want to double check for critical errors such as allergies. So, that's a life or death scenario. You don't want your client, you don't want to recommend somebody peanuts or a sauce or a restaurant meal that may contain traces of peanuts if they are allergic to it. Sometimes it may not be necessarily obvious, or something like gluten intolerance. Like, you want to be careful with all of those. And that would be sort of an overline of how you would go around doing a meal plan for free. And the pros of this, as mentioned, is free, and you can customize everything and include the sections you want. And the disadvantage is, if you need to do this on a regular basis as a nutrition professional, it's going to be very time consuming. So we're going to then, there's another way of making a plan that is also free and is very fast. But you are sacrificing the specificity. So that would be creating a so-called rough guidelines plan. So Lucy, maybe you want to explain what you would consider a rough guidelines plan that you can make for free.
So you don't really need to plan every single meal. So for example, I myself follow this once because if you live with your family, or if you live with someone else, and they are the ones who prepare the meals, so you can't really tell them that, oh, I want this or I need this one. So you have to like
Be
uh,
flexible.
yeah, be flexible with that. So just a rule of thumb, yeah, in a plate, you should have like protein, fats, carbs, and fiber. So guides like Harvard's My Plate, which shows you a rough estimate on how much of each macros
Mhm.
macros foods that you should eat. So a little bit of carbs, and include vegetables and fruits, an amount of protein, and fat source.
Yeah.
And also, if your family or your um partner does not cook only cook like proteins, for example, then carbohydrates and no vegetables, you can
Mm.
just have or add vegetables, or prepare your own vegetables, so that you would have like more fiber based
Mhm.
on your requirements.
Yeah, makes
So
sense. So
like
it's just so to see if I understand. So, for instance, obviously this depends in the philosophy and in what you are advocating. As different people have different diets and requirements. So, but let's say, for example, you think that you wanna have a plan, like you said, with a plate of some protein, some fat, some carbs. So, your guide can be just this is sort of the template for every dish, and you need these four components: one protein, one carb, one oil, and one vegetable. And then these are like Lego blocks that you can mix and match, and you can just have a list of, okay, here's a list of 30 different vegetables that fit into this vegetable slot. this is a list of 10 different proteins, a list of 20 different grains, and then you can just mix and match. And if you make sure that every meal has those components, you can, it's time to cook, you check your fridge, and it's like, I'm gonna pick my favorite vegetable, put it here, my favorite protein here, or whatever is like, whatever is gonna spoil next, because those are practical considerations, or whatever was left over from the previous day. And this has the advantage of being very flexible and very easy to follow, and very over time you can adapt it. And I'd say that probably you can explain how the list of sort of available options, it can have different portion sizes associated, right? Because it's not the same to have a potato is sort of technically a vegetable, right? But it's a starchy vegetable.
It's considered as a carbohydrate rather than a vegetable. So you don't
Exactly.
group it with the vegetables. It's more of like a carb.
It always kind of breaks my heart when I hear this. Sorry to go off track, but there's these kids that are eating in their school canteen, and they are, they're advised to choose a vegetable, and they always choose fries as their vegetable, and that's not necessarily going to help you achieve your nutrition goals.
Exactly. So I also want to touch on satisfying your cravings. So it's really a topic that we want to discuss. It's not really, when planning a meal plans, it's not really like the perfect things. You can't really like instantly have a perfect meal plan or follow the meal plan like 100%. You will have cravings along the way, and it's important not to deprive yourself with the foods you love, because initially that would lead to you binge eating. Instead, when you like, I'm gonna eat, instead of eating a chocolate, I'm gonna eat a fruit. So that certain craving is not really satisfied, even if it's the same sweet stuff. um so what you can do is just eat small portions of that, just to satisfy your craving. If you're usually eating like a whole bar or half a bar of chocolate, you could just have one just to satisfy that certain craving, and maybe add a little fruit or apple while you're eating that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there are some people out there that can be very cold turkey. I'm gonna ban completely this entire food group, and that works for them. And then some other people, it works best to have this balanced approach where they just kind of find the minimal quantity to stop the binging. And then because like we're humans, we are it's hard to change habits, and often these plans can get quite complex. And I'd say that in my own personal experience, and in the experience I've seen with clients, often the moment somebody gets interested in their health, they start following plans. Initially, maybe you'll manage to follow half of the plan, half of the time or something, but over time you keep committed and you get better at it, and your hormones will adapt in your body, and you will get better at cooking nutritious meals. And over time, you will be able to stick more and more to the plan if you've been building those habits. So there are all sorts of strategies to handle when you sort of fall off the wagon. We'll touch upon them later. But yeah, the plan, just to close this off, this option to this would be the fast. You come up with those strategies, with those rules of thumb, and you can do that in Word or anything. And these materials can be reusable. So if you have your list of 30 vegetable options with portion sizes, some of them will be bigger than others. Like, for example, with spinach, when you cook it, it reduces a lot. So you probably, if you want to cook spinach, you need a big amount of it. But if you have something like a broccoli that is solid, and you maybe need a smaller amount in comparison, like different fats. If you have something like oil, it's very calorically dense. So probably most meals you need a small amount. So let's just close this off for now. We're going to take another little break, and we'll be back soon just to explain the following two options and to finish off this guide that is proving to be quite in depth. So we're back from the break, and just to recap, we mentioned there are 4 options that we're going to provide to make a meal plan. So option 1, how to make it for free and in detail. Option 2, creating a rough guidelines plan for free. And option 3, we're going to show you how to do this with NutriAdmin, which is the software we provide as a company. So obviously there are other competing softwares to ours. This is just how NutriAdmin works. So for option 3, we're going to show you, Lucy's going to share her screen and show you the meal plan generator. So the meal plan generator is a tool that allows you to fill in a form with all these parameters, and you then click generate and you get a meal plan straight away in 60 seconds. So Lucy maybe can walk us through the different options available.
Sure. So in NutriAdmin's meal plan generator, you can input how much calories you want for the meal plan for each day, the carbohydrates or the macros, and you can also make different or how many meals you want for the day. You can have breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 snacks or 1 snacks, or you could also have like 3 meals in a day. It really depends on you. You can
Yeah.
just add or you can also edit how the maximum ready time or the time that you are willing to spend on making your meal. And you have we have here 40 plus diets that you can choose from. When you use this, for example, for diabetes diet, um, this can give you this will exclude all the food items that are not allowed for each diet. For example, for vegan diet, if you select vegan diet from this filter, it will exclude all animal products from
Yeah,
the meal plan that
makes
you're making.
sense. And you can so amongst the diets we have, there are several popular options like paleo, vegan, vegetarian, ketogenic, Mediterranean, DASH diet. We just implemented, listening to the feedback from our users on NutriAdmin, we just implemented the ones that seem to be the most in demand and requested. And as Lucy said, you choose a diet like vegan and it will exclude all animal products, but you can also manually exclude any ingredients. So if, for example, your client or yourself, you want to plan that, like let's say we go to the oils or cooking fats section, you can choose any, for example, you can say only olive oil is allowed and you remove sunflower oil, or you can just customize any foods that your client cannot eat or doesn't particularly like. And the generated plans will be taking that consideration into account. So maybe you can remove the butter restriction so that we get more options in the plan.
Okay.
And there are further options, so maybe you can walk us a bit through the advanced options.
Okay. We have additional filters like you can exclude or include exotic ingredients. You can choose what cooking equipments are available for you or for your clients. So not everyone has oven, right? So you can unselect that one. You can also choose ingredients that are common from your country or your place. So you can just check or uncheck this ones. You can also choose cuisines that you like or you don't like. Then you can also exclude food items that are you're allergic to or you can tolerate well, or you don't, it's just that you don't like that certain food.
Yeah, makes sense. And
So
then when you
let's try
generate,
to
when you generate the plan, sorry, you can generate, this is going to take into account all your parameters and within a few seconds give you many options that meet all the criteria. And it's not a coincidence that these parameters kind of map all these desirable conditions that we mentioned earlier, because we have been working with nutritionists, wellness professionals, and coaches for since 2016, basically. We just have compiled the feedback that we've provided, like, it would be nice to have, a way to filter by country or to exclude foods or to have specific diets. So as you see on screen, this generator is going to very quickly give you many meal combinations that match all the criteria mentioned. And they all come with recipes, and the recipes have actually been created by Lucy, who is a registered nutritionist dietitian. So they have been vetted by a professional. And maybe you can, Lucy, mention the criteria you use to create these recipes. Like,
So all of these are 20 minutes or less, so it's
Mm,
easy to make. Anyone can make it even if they're busy. And some of the recipes here you can make ahead and it won't really spoil easily, some of it. So it's good for if you have leftovers, you can still um cook eat it on a later time.
yeah, and
So
there's gonna be variety, and there being the idea is to make them practical and easy to make, because we don't want to give you some recipes that are very fancy and will impress your guests in a dinner party, but then you're not gonna make them on a daily basis because they are too elaborate.
yeah, exactly. So let's look at the
Hmm.
meal plan for NutriAdmin. So here's how it would look like after, or if you make your own meal plan on NutriAdmin, this is how it would look like. You can
Hmm.
have like this ones, then you can really see the macros in each plan.
Yeah.
You can also see the micronutrients. You
I will
have
highlight, you can see in the macros how it's highlighting this particular plant is too high in sodium. So if you are considering the different the dietary requirements for someone, you can pick their age group, because obviously, a child has different dietary requirements than an adult or a pregnant woman. So it will take the the DRI, and tell you if the plant is deficient or it has an excess of any particular micronutrient.
yes. So moving on, we also have this shopping list so that it would be easier for you to shop. It will have all the ingredients from the recipes, so it's
Mhm.
grouped based on food groups. It would be easier for you. Then you can also see it like in a macronutrient
Mhm.
breakdown per day, so that you would see how much calories you'll have for each day. Here's a
Yeah.
summary. You could also see how much calories it has per meal.
Yeah, and we
Then
built, we built this tool for nutritionists, wellness professionals, and so this is the option 4. So option 3 is you create the plan automatically, and option 4 is you can either create it from scratch or edit it. You can use your own recipes. You can query all these databases like USDA. You can query the branded food products. You can query the Ausnat, and like, for example, if you type in banana in there, it's going to find you banana, and it's going to automatically add all the nutritional calculations. So, a banana, a serving will be the first option, 89 calories. And you don't have to manually fiddle with any spreadsheets. So we have, in our experience, many of our users, they were spending maybe 3 hours before to make a plan, and now they can do it in just a few minutes. So we will link to separate articles and videos for the meal plan generator and the meal planning software if you're interested in checking it out. And maybe now, yeah, Lucy will show you the final result. So you can generate a PDF document, and because, yeah, we've had a lot of recipes, it may take just a bit to load in here. But so this is an example meal plan PDF. It's a 46-page document, but you can customize everything. You can remove sections. Like in here, in this example, we added every possible section. It says NutriAdmin at the top, but obviously in your case, it will include your own branding. And Lucy will walk us through the different content that you get in this plan.
so it will show you a list of recipes or meals that you're gonna make for each day, but
Mhm.
you also have a compact list of everything that you would eat, or every meal that you'll have for the whole week, which you can use. You can post it on your fridge so that
Mm.
you will get reminded of what you have to prepare during the day or during the week.
Yeah, makes sense.
It shows you the macronutrients per meal, and yeah, summaries. And it also has breakdowns of macronutrients per dish. And here's a sample recipe. As you can see, it will show you how much it takes for the recipe to be prepared, how many servings, the calories per serving, the macros for each serving as well. It has the ingredients, the instructions, and it will also show you the macronutrient summary for
Yeah.
per meal or the total recipe.
Yeah, makes sense. And we can really go in depth. We will link to separate links if you want to check the meal plan generator or meal planning software, because we can really go in depth. But basically, the idea here is if you are a nutritionist, wellness professional, personal trainer, anybody that needs to make meal plans on a regular basis, basically, we have designed the software specifically for you to make it practical. You can copy paste different meals, you can create your own recipes. There's many options. You can really go in depth, and you can basically, like our users, some of them used to spend 3 hours per plan, and now they can do it in a few minutes because all these nutrients are calculated automatically, etc. So there are other options, as I mentioned earlier, and you can check as well. But if you want to give NutriAdmin a go, you can check out nutriadmin.com, and we have a free trial in case you want to check it out. Yeah, so now moving on, after we've shown you different ways in which you can make a meal plan from a step-by-step practical perspective. So now comes another crucial and often neglected part, which is once the meal plan is done and you give it to a client or you just make it for yourself, the job is not finished, because there's a crucial component, which is following up and getting feedback. So as humans, it's just very hard to change habits, and especially something like eating that you have very ingrained. You have been doing this every day of your life. So what can you tell us, Lucy, about how to follow up after a meal plan with a client, how to use feedback to really make it effective and to drive those goals?
Yeah, for following up and getting feedback, it's really important to, if you're a nutrition or wellness professional, it's important to have a regular check-in with your client, or if you're doing it yourself, you have to like evaluate. You can use the food diary um if you think, if you see the list and you think that there are stuff that you can improve on, you can assess that within that food diary or food log. And
Mm-hmm.
also what you can do is um find an accountability buddy, like your friend or your family or your partner or even your coach or your nutritionist. And you can also join communities that has the same goals as you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's I find online communities are very supportive with achieving goals. So it really helps if you know some communities like that. um,
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you're evaluating your meal plans, you can find out which recipes are working or are not working. You can remove it and find replacements that you actually like. Or if you're a nutrition professional, you can ask your clients what would they want in substitute to that. You give them options.
Mm-hmm.
um, and you can also, you also have to track progress towards goals like weight loss in a month. Are they making progress or with their weight? You can check if the meal plan is working or not. um, with regards to hunger levels, it's also important that you check if the meal plan that you're giving to your client or to yourself is enough for you. Are you getting hungry every now and then? That means like maybe it's not enough, or you don't have enough protein or fiber that can give you a lot of bulk or keep you full
Satiated,
for a
yeah.
longer time.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. And it's just, it's unrealistic to expect that you're going to get everything 100% right from the start. So it's really an iterative process. You're going to come up with version 1 of a plan for a week, and hopefully you will see some improvements as a client or for yourself. And over time, you'll make those refinements. If you keep doing this repeatedly, eventually you will find recipes that are really effective. You will find the process gets easier and results are achieved. And certainly, if you are a nutrition professional providing advice to clients, just don't give up. If you've tried meal plans before and you didn't get the results you wanted, then you found the following up part is crucial. And there are lots of success stories of people that have found this working. So keep on at it, and hopefully you will find success. And now the final part we want to cover here is just, realistically, how are you going to handle when a client or you're following a meal plan and you're just failing to follow the plan or not achieving the goals? Because unfortunately, this is a common scenario. These plans, there can be, different setbacks and obstacles along the way for different reasons. So it's important not to give up and to just try to address many of the problems and shortcomings can be addressed. So what would you say, Lucy? What can you say on this topic for our
Yeah.
listeners?
Since I mentioned it earlier that you have to set goals that are achievable and realistic, it's really important because if you set like goals that are ideal, but you can't really do that for a short period amount of time, um, that would lead to yeah failure, and
Mm,
it will lead to disappointment and demotivation. So you really have to set expectations and give yourself forgive yourself if you didn't really follow it 100%. It's okay. You can just do better the next day, and this way
yeah.
you will also know if what works for you or what does not work for you.
Yeah, and changing habits is hard. There's an entire literature written about changing habits. I personally really like what's it called, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's a good book, and it's all about identifying rewards and cues that yeah, you can delve into this topic a lot. It's not something that you're not going to manage to suddenly change your food habits from one day to another without consequences. And the typical experience of somebody that starts to take their health seriously is they start following a plan and they manage some of the days, some of the other days they don't manage. But if over time you're gradually improving, maybe after a month or two of doing this, there are a higher percentage of the days are closer to the ideal plan, and there are fewer of the days where you just deviated from it. And there are some also rules of thumb, like maybe one day, let's say you did breakfast well, but you did like lunch, you just deviated from the plan. You ate a massive cake, or your client ate a cake. So the day is not over. You can still make the next meal a bit better. It's not the end of the world. Um, then like what are some other like other problems that people typically face?
Handling social occasions. It's
Oh yeah,
timely right now during the holidays, because you're gonna be in a lot of parties and mingling with your family and friends. So what I can say about this is that you don't really have to restrict yourself when you're out with your family and friends. You have to enjoy being with
mhm,
them rather than overthinking that, oh my god, not I'm not eating really healthy because of this
yeah,
party or something like that. So um you have to forgive yourself if you did not do your like plan 100% on that specific occasion.
yeah,
Maybe you can try planning out what foods that you're gonna eat from the menu that the host set there. If you just have to look at your portion sizes and make sure that you have enough protein, vegetables,
yeah.
carbs, and yeah,
Many
basically the
strategies.
one.
And it depends on the individual, obviously. And maybe you planned it in such a way that you can allow yourself to go to a social event. It's on your diary, and that day there'll be no restrictions. Or maybe it is planned in such a way that let's minimize the impact of this meal that is sort of outside of the plan. So you can maybe plan to that day before going to the party to eat some fruits, and that's going to fill you up a bit, and then you will naturally be less hungry and eat less. Or you can maybe yeah, like Lucy said, like being like this also counts when you go to a restaurant. So if you perhaps there's all sort of tips and tricks. You can, for example, have a starter that is vegetable based, like a salad, or so that you get a bit more full, and then by the time the main comes in, you're so full that you are never going to be tempted by dessert because you're already full. That's compared to a scenario where you did no planning, and then when people like your friends or the host of the restaurant are offering you tasty options, if you haven't planned ahead, then like the key here thing is to just to plan and to be aware, so that it all fits within your goals. And obviously, yeah, it depends. If you are an elite athlete that has to optimize every single meal for maximum performance, obviously you'll have to take it more seriously than if you're just advising a client that just wants to improve overall health, but doesn't have to be extreme. So it's all about the individual. And yeah,
Yeah. I'd like to add something, Diego. Sometimes we as humans, we eat with our eyes, so we tend to eat a lot because we think that those foods are really delicious, so
yeah,
we tend to
tell me
get a
about it.
lot of it. Yeah, so maybe you can just have a little bit of everything instead of like big portions of those. That would be really helpful. And
Mhm.
you have to let yourself know if you're full. Sometimes we tend to overeat, and when we still have food on our plate and um we're already full, we tend to like think about it's a waste, so we just
Mm,
continue to eat those.
yeah,
So it's okay to say it's okay to stop eating it when you're full. So I just want to add that one. And sometimes we get a lot of our friends or our family members saying that, oh, eat more, but
yeah.
you
In
just
my
learn
house in
how to
particular,
subtly say no.
yeah, I dare you to say no to my grandma after she's cooked this homemade roast she spent 3 hours making, and you are living in the plate.
Yeah.
There is just no way of saying no. So you have to factor that into your plan, you know. So
Yes,
my
make exceptions.
yeah, my
Because
strategy
if
is
it's a
if I'm
grandma, there's no saying no.
exactly. If I'm gonna eat at my grandma's, my only strategy that I found works is I won't eat breakfast that day, because that's the only part of the day I can control. Um, but yeah,
So that's a
the
great tip for everyone, Diego.
yeah, avoid breakfast if you eat at Diego's grandma's. So yeah, loads of things. You have to be persistent and patient. You have to expect that the changes are not going to be linear. So anybody that has ever lost weight, you will know that if you weigh yourself every day, there's going to be fluctuations, ups and downs, because there is different levels of, like, a lot of it is just hydration. Like if you ate a salty meal the previous day, your body will naturally retain a bit more water and you'll be slightly heavier. And it's more about the trend over time. So if you check the sort of average trend week after week, you can be more accurate in whether you're losing weight or not. And there are several tips. So you need to acknowledge that willpower is a finite resource. So if the plan is very drastic and is really asking a person to change a lot, you have to factor in, perhaps let's do this when the client is not going to be stressed by or there's not going to be other things taxing their willpower. So let's say, for example, if somebody is I don't know, going through buying a house plus, or they're moving a house, and they just change a new work and they're learning new things, and something is like their kids are back from school and they are having less time. And so if you combine all of this and on top of it you're on a diet, that's going to be very challenging. However, if you have somebody that has, okay, now I'm going to have 3 months of relative calm where things are stable at home, stable at work, I don't have any sort of major challenging thing I have to do, then that is ideal, right? Because if you don't have, there's just this limited amount of willpower you have on a day. And if you want to make such an important change as changing a diet, strategically you will want to choose the meal plan, at least the first week or two, which may be the most challenging, to start at a time where everything else is sort of in autopilot and relatively stable and easy.
So I hope that people who listen to this YouTube video watch this will get a lot of tips and will eventually success in making their own meal plans.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much more we can talk about. This is a deep topic. We're going to link in the article to lots of related resources, but essentially just to give you a recap of what we discussed. We've said what is a meal plan and why they are important, and how we've mentioned the success stories. There are people that have improved their health dramatically following a meal plan. And if you're a nutritionist or a professional that provides meal plans for clients, we have discussed different ways in which you can make meal plans faster, so that the least time it takes you, the more meal plans you can provide to clients. And we have discussed tips on making the plans effective. So the plans have to be clear, they have to have accurate analysis, the goals have to be set up, the recipes have to be easy to follow. There's so many considerations, and you need relentless follow-up. You need to over time improve it, test what works and what doesn't, and just understand that every individual is unique. And if it were as easy as downloading a plan from the web, then we wouldn't need meal plans. Just we would need just one plan for everyone. But unfortunately, it's not so easy. So and I don't know if we're going to show you an example meal plan just to close this off. But if is there anything else you want to mention before that, Lucy, that we haven't covered so far?
We pretty much covered everything. So
Yeah, I guess just wanna ask that. So anybody that's watching this on YouTube, feel free to comment if you have any questions. We are more than happy to reply. And if you are reading this in our blog, we're gonna publish it at nutriadmin.com/blog, and you will be able to reply in the comments there, and we are more than happy to answer, because the way we learn is by interacting with our audience. Everything we've ever done at NutriAdmin has been through talking to these thousands of nutritionists. We have a process to collect their feedback, and this is how we all learn, and how we can compile these guides with, like, all of this is not something we made up. It's basically the combined knowledge of all these professionals. And some of them, as I said, we have some customers that are making 50 meal plans per week. So they have a large client base, and they have told us, they've done all these plans, and they have told us, Diego, you need to change this in the software, because we find that this is working with clients. And like, for example, the cooking equipment was a big one. Initially, our generator made recipes, a lot of recipes with an oven, and turns out that, well, a lot of people have an oven, but they just don't want to use it because it's a pain, to be honest, for a lot of people. So yes, if you are so just to close off, if you go to nutriadmin.com/blog, I think it will be /how to make a meal plan. You will be able to find a PDF example of a plan, like about 50 pages long, really in depth. And you can just see, if you want to make your own plans, you can obviously try NutriAdmin, but you can also just try creating your own templates and following the tips we've given you. We're also going to provide a bunch of handouts and resources. So hopefully we'll make an Excel spreadsheet that you can download, and a checklist, and the food portion sizes, right? Like, what else can we link?
The ones with the shopping lists.
Or the
Excel file.
Yeah, or the Harvard. Yeah, or the Harvard file that you meant, my plate.
Yeah, the Harvard food guide. We're gonna link it.
Yeah, food databases, etc. So yeah, I think hopefully you'll find this useful. And if you're interested in the content we are making, please give us a like on YouTube and let us know. And we hope we're gonna make more guides like this. So hopefully stay tuned, and you'll be able to see some more. And yeah, that's it for today.